Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you guys for taking the time out your night. Pastor Greer for making the drive down. Really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for taking what is deemed the most important step in your financial journey, showing up. I won't steal too much of your time tonight, but I'm thrilled to be kicking off the Limitless Mind Unlock series, starting off with our financial growth seminar here. So today we're not going to just talk about money. We're going to talk about unlocking your potential and building a future where you can feel confident and in control. Just a disclaimer, I'm not a financial guru. I'm not an expert. I'm not a CPA. I don't have investment licenses. I'm just someone who's been fortunate enough to be blessed with the experiences, to go through life, to meet a multitude of individuals who've poured into me their knowledge. I research a lot in a lot of these aspects that we'll talk about, but tonight will be very baseline. Today's overview of our seminar, we're going to talk through the word you can hold on to is empowerment. We often feel financial success is complicated or requires specific knowledge. It doesn't, right? We're going to break down the essential skills, budgeting, saving, managing debt. We'll put those into simple, actionable steps. So if you walk away with nothing else tonight, I want you to know exactly what your next best step is for your financial portfolio. Our agenda today will cover a couple of items here: common pitfalls, budgeting, smart saving, debt, questions, and then there'll be like a 3 to 5 minute little interactive session that we'll have with each other. Alrighty here. So I want you all to think about, as we talk and when you leave tonight, your money mindset. To achieve financial success, I want you to cultivate a growth mindset, focusing on empowerment and a healthy relationship with money. Before we even look at a single number, we have to look at our mindset. Money is just a tool, right? If we approach it with a fear or stress, we will avoid managing it. A growth mindset is going to help us learn so we can change and we can achieve success regardless of your past or your present, right? All of this is so we can take the information that we take tonight, apply it, kind of break it down, and then implement it with a plan moving forward. First here, we have common pitfalls. So let's be honest. These are the three biggest hurdles in a lot of people's financial portfolios. The first being impulse spending. That treat yourself mentality, it's powerful, right? But it can be constantly unplanned purchases, which quickly derail any budget, right? Those Starbucks runs add up. Look at today's economy. You can go get a grande, which is a medium, and easily cost you $7, $7.50. You start adding in the extra pumps of syrup, cold foam, things like that. That's an $8, $9 trip, and you just got a 3,000 in calories, right? We all enjoy Starbucks, the new 7 brews and things like that, but we have to manage those things, right? So our second common pitfall is no savings. This is where life creates chaos. Without an emergency fund, unexpected costs like a car repair, medical bill can easily force us into, some people, lifetime of debt, right? And so we want to try to, as best as we can, avoid that. And we'll talk in a little more depth what areas we can improve in savings and things like that, the steps that we can take. And our last pitfall here is ignoring debt. Overlooking debt leads to escalated financial stress. If we can acknowledge these pitfalls, this is the first step for avoiding them. Any questions? Awesome, we'll move on. Budgeting basics. we want to understand the financial priorities for success. Kind of breaking these into three basic things that you guys can take away for tonight. The first one being needs versus wants, right? Your needs are essential for survival. Your shelter, your food, minimum debt payment, because let's face it, we all have some form of debt, whether it is crippling debt or not. We still have debt. And then your wants, which are those Starbucks runs, things that enhance your life, Netflix, dining out, hobbies. We must prioritize these needs. The biggest hack, which takes us into automation. If we can automate our savings, our bills and payments, and simplify our financial management, reducing the risks of missed payments. I know some of us have missed payments. I've missed payments before, just not thinking about or having it on auto payment. So now it's past the 19th, and that affects your credit, and it's a bad habit, right? So if we can start off on a great foot, these things can help us understand and help us create a financial stability within our financial portfolio. The last tier is financial awareness. All of these things that we're discussing is for us to be aware of our finances. My wife and I often talk about a lot around her understanding of what our finances look like, the debt that we have, the income that we bring in, right? And we put together just a quick little, we'll touch on it more and more as we continue, but the last couple of times we've discussed in our relationship, we put together just a quick note in our phone that we share, that she can see everything that comes in and everything that comes out, right? So God forbid something happens to me, she has an understanding of what is Jordan paying, what was coming in, and then she can work with, the financial advisors that we have in place with a life insurance policy that she would get paid out, et cetera, to pay those bills down or keep them auto payment, just so she can kind of know a little more about our portfolio. And that portfolio awareness is life-saving, right? And ultimately it leads to discipline. If you can be disciplined, a good steward over your finances, it's rewarding and it feels good, right? It feels good to know what you're paying for. It feels good to have an understanding, to know what's coming in, what's going out. It helps you kind of budget a little more. It helps you understand if you need to make more money, right? In this economy, that this is a common answer for a lot of people's problems now, right? Is I got to make more money. So if you understand what your portfolio looks like, you have these structures put into place, you can then take the next step for your specific financial portfolio to improve or to continue to maintain. If you're already doing these things, continue to maintain your portfolio as you navigate life. Any questions?
I got a question. How long did it take you to build your own portfolio?
That's a great question. I'm 27, and I graduated when I was 21, obviously. So it took me, honestly, over the past couple of years, right? My wife and I graduated during COVID. We got married in 21, moved to Colorado. We were making great money for the two of us. She was a nanny. I had a tech job, and I'm still in tech. I had a tech job that paid me pretty solid being 22 years old. We were bringing in six figures together, and we weren't doing these things. We didn't have crippling debt. We had car notes, but they were minor compared to where we're at today. And I don't say that in a brag, man. I'm just saying, like, in that stage of our life, we were doing really good, but we did not put these safety nets into place, honestly, until a couple of years ago, right? We've had a multitude of things happen in our life. One, from some of my financial mistakes, and then also just don't necessarily want to have to, we can bring God into this because this is my whole, my structure, or my foundation is sometimes there are things that happen to you that throw you off, that have to happen for your future, right? In order for him to build you up and for him to build trust in you, right? Because when you, I think you guys heard Grammy when we first got here, her prophecy about me being a millionaire. That's something that I do strive for, not just in my portfolio and my investments, but my net worth. Like I would love to be a millionaire, and I have certain financial goals. So in the past couple of years, um, it's I've really buckled in, honed in on setting up our portfolio, setting up the structure, understanding what I'm making, and setting goals for myself. That oftentimes too allows you to have a better understanding of, okay, I have 12,000 in credit card debt. I want to have this done by 6 months, so that money that I was paying for the debt can now go to a savings account to buy a house. And then it also helps you build discipline. So for me, to answer your question, to make sure I answer your question, it took me a couple of years just to come to put these things in place. Now, this is ongoing. This will be an ongoing thing. Your income will vary, right? Unfortunately, it can go down, as government employees have seen that, right? My mom, right? So, but for me to kind of put this into place and really have an understanding and be where I'm at today, a couple of years for sure. And that was just like an ongoing research. My wife often talks about, why are you always on ChatGPT? Well, I like talking to it, and it helps me think a lot more, and ask different questions. And then I use it as well to my advantage to budget, to automate some things in my life, to make my life easier. Good question. Anybody else? Awesome. So breaking debt cycles. Understanding debt repayment methods like the snowball and avalanche can help you gain control over your financial future. Once your budget and basic savings are set, we can turn the focus to debt. There are two main strategies. Excuse me. The debt snowball. This is often viewed as a behavior strategy. This is where you pay off the smallest balance first to build momentum. And oftentimes psychology wins in this, right? So, example, you got 4 credit cards, balances are 2, 5, 10. You pay the minimum on the 5 and the 10, and you throw everything you can at the 2. Knock that off what you were throwing at the 2. You throw at the 5 next, keep paying the minimum on the 10 till the 5 is paid off, and then same down, pay off the 10 with everything you were throwing at the 2 and the 5. Any question on the snowball?
How do you use your, in case someone's thinking that, that's maybe my watching the live. So how do you use your debt management to plan for vacations? And, because we all like to vacation, we all like to, so how do we budget for that? And then budget for this and budget for that? It's hard in today's economy
Yeah,
to do that.
you're getting into my next slide here a little bit, which is fine. We'll break it down. A general baseline, and I'll say it, and then I'll touch more of it here in a second, is a framework, 50, 30, 20. 50% going towards your needs, 30% towards wants, and 20% towards savings. And then I always say that's a general baseline, and then you can break that down, and I'll break it down here in a second. Let me touch on the avalanche here, then we'll go into that. The other method for breaking debt cycles is the avalanche method. This is more of the mathematical strategy where you tackle the debt with the highest interest rate first, which saves you money in the long run. And then obviously between these two, you choose the method that works best for you. So like I have an American Express card, and then I've had a Capital One and a Discover. The Discover I've had since I was in college to help build me credit. That one has always had the lowest interest. Capital One has the second lowest, and then American Express is insane. It's more of a charge card though, but I've before carried a balance on that, and they make you pay with their interest, right? I saw somebody on social media, they have a black card, which if you don't know, a black card, it's referred to as a black card, but it's like a business card. If you have your own business, you have to gross well over 6 figures in your business, like close to $1 million or whatnot, and it's not something you can apply for. They send you an invitation, and one, most people, those people don't carry balances, and if they do, they have their things set up on auto pay. But like if you miss payments, they block your card, and American Express is very buckled down with their they want their money essentially. So but you got to be mindful of the credit cards that you have and understand the APRs, right? There are credit cards that you can do balance transfer for. So if you can apply for a balance transfer card where you can get like 12 months of 0% APR or 5%, that's better than 30%, right? Where you can get that card and take that debt from the 30% credit card and then apply it on the transfer and pay it off without being crippled every single month with additional interest. Were you gonna say something?
So the black card, we just saw that movie, foreign movies, and the owner of the business, he worked for his dad. He would pull out a black card. You take a card, and it was a black card, and they go,
Right. Yeah.
so they knew what it was. So that took the place of the gold card. If they still, I don't know if American Express. Years ago, we spent. I was working, he was working $50,000 in 1 year on our American Express, but we paid it off every month. I won a trip to Hawaii with with points. Foolishness, but we had savings and we had 401k, so we could do that. And every month I'd pay it off. If it was 2,500, I'd pay it off. If it was 500, I'd pay it off. So that took the place of the gold of the black card. I mean, of the gold card, right?
Um,
More or less.
Maybe because they still have a Go card. They have a variety of cards that you can get, and they all. And we could talk on this really quick because we're doing really good on time here. For American Express specifically, they're really good for travel, right? They have like I have the platinum card. It's not necessarily an everyday card where you buy gas and dine on. You can have you get dining points, but you have to do the research. One of the things that I told my wife that I want to work on being better on is, and it ultimately helps, is using our credit card to pay for our daily bills, and that getting a credit card that is for daily use, right? And there are a lot of companies, Discover, Capital One, American Express offers credit cards under the platinum that are for daily use where you get a lot of points and then paying it off in full at the end of the month, which in turn helps your credit, helps your utilization, and also just shows you're responsible. And then also a way of managing your debt as well, right? If you're using one card, 1 to 2 cards max, keeping money in your checking accounts, and just being able to pay off that one card, it helps you kind of have a system that you can use to just kind of pay your everyday items. And then there's a bunch of perks, traveling perks, things like that that you get. We stayed in Chicago, and we stayed in a really nice hotel on the river. The room was like $300 a night. We stayed for 2 nights, $600. American Express, I use at a $300 credit. They paid for $300, and they what's huh? Yeah, upgraded our room for free. So, and we got points. So, yeah. Um, if you just said the key point there, if you're disciplined enough, sure. I'm not an advocate for opening a bunch of line of credits, but also there is a benefit in which if you are responsible and disciplined enough to pay off the balances every month and before your statement, whatever the statement date or whatever, awesome, right? Like if you can keep your utilization, I think it's 30% on your credit report, that can only benefit you, but also there is an aspect, the credit report, the credit world is crazy, right? The credit system is crazy because you get punished for doing good things, right? So opening too many lines of credit is a sign of they that flags your credit report, and they're looking at that like, well, what is this person doing, right? You got J.C. Penney's and etc. So I don't think one or two or couple is bad as long as you stay on top of it. Awesome, but also there are credit cards. You got to do your research on a lot of these things because it's not something. This information isn't something that's hidden from us. It's out there. We just don't research it, right? When we get a credit card, ooh, Capital One Venture Card. Well, what you need a venture card for if you don't travel? You take a trip once or twice a month, or not a month, once or twice a year. I mean, sure, but there's probably a better or the platinum card. If you don't travel, you don't need the platinum card. It's a status symbol. So those are things to keep in mind. If you're shopping at JCPenney consistently, there's no harm in it, right? But pay it off. Right. Yeah. Right. It for me, I make really good money, and I follow a lot of people, and I look at what other people do, and not to follow them, but like okay, I look at what the rich people do or what the wealthy people do, right? I follow a lot of they're not influencers, but they're influential individuals who do these type of things, seminars, and they talk about these things, and then also for me, I like I want to be simplified with my wallet. I carry around this big bulky wallet. We hardly do cash anymore. 5, 6 cards in there. I don't want all that. I want a couple of cards that I use daily, and I'm also trying to set myself up, understand what do I do on a day-to-day basis. I know we eat out on the weekends most of the time at restaurants. Cool. American Express has really good dining credit cards that are good for dining, and you get a bunch of points back on restaurants, right? I know we want to start traveling a little more, and taking by monthly, sorry, weekender trips with my wife and I and our kids sometimes. Again, American Express, Capital One, all of these companies have great cards for specific things. So I think for me, I look at what I want to do in my life and I say, what matches that? And in this instance, I use ChatGPT a lot. I don't. It is my Google now, right? Because a lot of the information comes from Google. It's just a centralized place that I don't necessarily have to click on a bunch of links. I tell it what I want to know. It provides me what I want to know. I'm not suggesting that you have to do that, but everything is on the internet now. So even if you just ask anything, Google, type in the search engine, what's the best credit card for travel? It'll provide you probably 5 to 10 credit cards, some that you've probably never even heard of. But also, credit cards have been taught to be a no-no for so long within our community as African Americans, but in general to the middle, lower class people, just because there's a responsibility that comes with that. A lot of people don't talk about what that responsibility is. And so if you can become disciplined with your portfolio and your finances, I would encourage you to look at a couple of credit cards, at least 2, one for every day and one for traveling and dining perks, to use one every day, one you travel, get the points. That's money back in your pocket with some of the cash back things, etc. So just kind of determines what you want to do. And then also understand every credit card doesn't have an annual fee, and some of these annual fees are crazy high. So you got to ask yourself, is it worth getting this and paying that annual fee, once a year? Like a platinum card, the annual fee just went up, but they raised some of the perks. So a lot of the things that we do, Uber One, Resi, which is a app for dining, we get credits back, statement credits back. The hotels I mentioned, the traveling, things like that. So for me, yeah, like just right now, like start next year, you get a $600 credit for hotels to use semi-annually, and then you get $400, I think it is, for dining through Resi. So $400 statement credit back. So that alone is already $1,000 in dollars.
Person doesn't pay any of that any attention. They just swipe it.
Exactly.
Go on vacation. They'll put a little bit over here and a little bit over here,
Right.
and they just go. They don't have any idea. I said 50. It was 30,000. It was 50,000 points that we got. So it was 30,000 that we spent.
Yeah.
It seemed outrageous.
Which now that's common. All right. People spend more than that nowadays. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and for those who are online, this is my mother talking, so I can talk to her in a more personable manner than the rest of you. I won't ever give you financial advice until I'm certified in certain areas, but for my mom who's asking that question, one, I would suggest do not close the credit cards that do not have balances because that hurts your credit, and you want to show, yeah, you want to show that call it purchasing power. You can call it your utilization rate as well. If you have on those credit cards that are open that do not have balances, but you're able to spend, just keep it around number $10,000 on three of them, right? And then the other, let's say if you have two of them that have balances, they have 20,000 combined. Well, let's do 50%, 50,000. What's 30% of 50,000? 50,000. What's 30% of 50? That's 15,000. So you can, before you start to get dinged, you can use up to 15,000 a month in utilization at a comfortable rate of your credit cards. So if you close those two or three credit cards that do not have balances and you still have 20,000 on your credit cards, you would hurt your credit more than where you currently are. So you can look at balance transfer credit cards, um, personal loans, depending on what your credit looks like. The biggest thing in those are just making sure the interest rates matter and you are not penalized for paying off your loan early. And then the snowball and avalanche effect. As much as it sucks, paying the minimum on, depending on what you make, and I know my mother's finances well. Depending on what you make, though, if this was someone else, you would have to decide what's better for you. Paying the lowest card off first and making the minimum and watching the interest build up on that one, which sucks, but you got to do what you got to do to get out, right? To climb out of that pitfall, or pay off the one that has the highest interest rate if you can, and then tackle the other one. And I only say the avalanche sometimes doesn't work for everyone because you may not make enough to pay off the highest interest rate to do enough damage, right? If your APR is 30%, that interest every month, depending on what your balance is heavy, right? So you got to pay enough to cover the minimum and the interest rate to actually do damage.
Our generation came from, I don't know if they still talk about it, Rule of 78, interest rates, finance charges, compared to, um, right on the tip of my tongue, where the interest is just monthly instead of Rule of 78. Rule of 78 is the worst type of loan you could ever have, because once you sign to get that loan with high interest, you're paying all that up front. But the other type, and I did this all the time, the other type is pay as you go, like you do with a car loan.
Right.
A car loan, I don't think they make them unless they do what we call the mouse houses, which are the ones that continually send us stuff. You're approved for 15,000. You're approved for, we get calls for $50,000. Just call us and we'll send you $50,000.
Yeah, no, they do. So I think he's giving you a mic real quick. But yes, they still do send you, even when I'll be vulnerable here. I've had a credit card in collection because at one point in our life, we could not pay the balance. So ours had to go to collection, and they still send my wife and I, you have a chance to be pre-approved, right? Because we paid our wife's off. We paid one of hers off and we're working on another. We set up a payment plan, and they've been sending her, hey, you can here's a chance. We think you have a high chance of being pre-approved for this car. And it's like, well, wait, didn't I just, I couldn't pay it to you. Well, we're in a better situation now, but you know what I mean? Like it's all a game. And if you can master the game, you even just play by the rules, you can be right there with the others, the rich people, the wealthy.
So do you get dinged? So the dings come from if you go over your 30%, and also if you don't pay, what is it, like the minimum? So you get dinged double.
You can, and by ding double, it can cause more points to come off your credit score. So the credit game, and I won't dive too much in this, but your credit score is made up of a combination of things: good debt, bad debt, and then utilization, car loans and things like that. All those things differ. Credit cards tend to have higher APRs than car loans, although there are some people out there with crazy car loan APRs. And then your payment, on-time payments matter, etc. But yes, if you aren't making your minimum payment, and then you're not keeping your utilization down, the utilization matters over time. The minimum payment matters immediately on your credit score. You might slide on your credit score if your utilization creeps up to 35 to 40%. But if it stays there, lenders start to look at that and say, well, you've been carrying this 40% for quite some time. When can you pay it off? And that affects what you're purchasing, what your borrowing power is, etc. But that is a way that they keep us poor. When we get those pre-approvals and things like that, we get excited. I can get another credit card. Of course, when we get into a bind, we use that credit card. We got into a bind because we didn't have enough money in the first place. How do we have enough money to pay off this credit card? Well, I'll pay it off. I've seen a lot of people as of late on social media letting some of their things go to collections, which more power to you if you have that ability to not let that affect you. But I'm personally chasing something that I'm trying to make sure I line up when I go and stand before people and they look at my stuff like, okay, this guy's he's what we're looking for when I step in those buildings and whatnot. So employers, in the financial industry, yes, they will. But most employers do not run your credit. They run background checks, and sometimes they can have. The question was, do employers look at your credit score, credit? And my answer is sometimes they can. If you are in the financial industry, if you're working for Charles Schwab, I would tell you they 100% do. Any other questions?
What this is awesome because thank you. This is awesome because this is what I did for 18 years in car business. And when I would hear the loan officer call me and say, their debt to income is such and such. And I said, well, how do they get out of it if you don't give them a chance? And how are they going to get to work to pay what they have off if they don't have a vehicle?
Right.
Sinead, do you know these people? I said, yes, I do, and I know the family. And so I would help them get a car. I would beg for them. They get a start, come back in a couple years later. Thank you so much. The problem is we get a car, and we don't want to keep that car till it's paid off. Most wealthy people keep their cars till they're paid off or they pay cash for them.
Right.
Ryan and I had this conversation. He met somebody at the gas station, some guy he was in the military with. He pays cash for his vehicles. You have to be disciplined if it's something you want.
Right.
So you pay cash for them. You don't keep trading and trading and trading. You'll never
And I'll
get out of debt.
I'll add to that. Most people do not keep their cars and they finance, and they should be leasing. Leasing for most people is the best way to purchase a car. You still do take a hit, but unfortunately, I will say this very confidently, cars today are not built the same, right? They don't necessarily last as long as they used to. I'm not saying there aren't cars that can take you into the millions with good maintenance and things like that, but we live in a different world. People are greedy. These corporations are greedy. They will get you out into what you want, and you'll be somewhere down the line past your warranty, and now you are out of pocket thousands. And now you got somebody on social media telling you you need to send it to the ocean with Gap. But most people can get away with leasing. I know Ford has started offering past the 15,000 miles. So I think you can get up to 20,000 miles a year on their leases.
We used to build that into the cars.
Right.
If they were business people,
Yeah.
some business people wouldn't lease anymore because they'd come back in 2-3 years
Yeah.
and they'd have 70,000-80,000 miles and they'd have to pay the overage
Right.
before they could get another one.
Right.
So if you're a business person and you're traveling like that, it's not an advantage for you. But if you're going to build 20,000 miles a year on there,
Yeah.
it's an advantage for you to lease.
Exactly. And then on the finance aspect, it is often talked about if you can't afford a car at 60 months, which buying a car, the car like market and whatnot, it's so individualized, because that is one area where I am the total opposite of what Grammy is just saying, and not in a necessarily what do you call it? Not in a, well, that don't apply to me way, and there's a term that I'm trying to, but I can't think of it, right? But just because I love cars, I am a car person, is the only thing that I spend real money on. Even down the line, I told him, I don't care about watches. I don't care really about big houses and like flying on PJs, first class and things like that. I want to be comfortable when I fly now, but I don't care about any other luxury thing outside of cars. So for me, even now when I'm looking at my financial portfolio, I've made mistakes in purchasing cars and like rolling things over, but I've also been fortunate enough to buy in the specific markets where I've had, what do you call it? Not negative equity, positive equity, to be able to trade into cars without putting money down. And there are cars that I look at and I'm like, I should have leased that, right? So I could be done, have a fresh start. But if you, in this car market, cannot afford to pay $600, $700, $800 a month, keep what you have. That I will say that with confidence. That is the one thing I will argue anyone down for. If you cannot afford to not just pay them, I'm not just talking about the monthly payment on the car, the maintenance, the gas, the electric bill if you have an electric car, etc. The tires. There's so much more into just getting a car. We oftentimes I know tires go bad. You get two at a time. Cars have to be treated good. If you want your car to last, you got to treat it like you want it to last, right? You got to do regular 5,000 to 6,000 mile maintenance. Some of your cars can go once a year if you don't drive that much. You got to make sure all of your oils and temps are running right, etc. So, but yes, if you can afford, unless the APR is sitting pretty at 72 months, in theory, you probably should not go and get a car for 72 or 84. And I've done that, but I'm telling you from experience, if you can't afford it at 60, 72 or 84 ain't looking any better. That payment might look better, but that APR is going to eat you up on the back end.
So I'm out of the business now and have been for several years. Is that the average for a car note now? $700-800?
Yes, and the average can be
Six.
skewed a little bit here because
Depending on what you purchase.
Right. Yeah, because you got the top end of vehicles now, the higher trims, which tip the scales on the higher end of the payments for the average. Those higher trims start out on a GM. You look at a Suburban now, Chevy Suburban, higher trim of the, what do you call it, high country. You can easily top out now $96,000-$97,000. Yukon, you can easily get to 100 if you like Escalades. Easily sitting at almost 200,000, which back in the day, they were all nice and well done, but Escalade you could probably grab on the lower end of 70. Now, even Expeditions, I got an Expedition, but even from when I bought mine brand new, which I would don't do that unless you like your cars, do not buy brand new. Even in the 2 years we've had ours, the new ones now, the newer models, they just came out with a refresh. They start out at 70, and that can be baseline where you got cloth seats, and you just got you a little screen that ain't doing nothing, no navigation or nothing. So do your research when you're looking for cars. If you like cars, do your research. You might be able to get something in a year or two lower for 15, 30, 20,000 less. Even with the mileage, look at stuff. A lot of things don't have V8s in them anymore, or even tried and true V6s. They got these little piston turbos and things like that come with more components. I'll use my truck as an example. I had to take my truck in when we got here. And we'll move on here in a second. Are we good on time? Are we doing the reading at 7? Okay. I'll use my truck as an example. I had to take it in to get serviced, and it's been in 2 accidents, one for my wife, one for mine, and we have a moonroof, and it wasn't draining on the right side. So when it rains on the moonroof, the water seeps in a little crack, and it wasn't draining down. It's supposed to drain through this hose down the fender, and it wasn't doing that. It was just sitting there because it was blocked. Come to find out, I got in an accident, and the people who fixed the truck did not create enough separation for the hose to leak down. So my warranty allowed them to clean it out for me, which is all it needed, thank God. But then I was like, well, do I even need this extended warranty, since every time I come, y'all might be like, well, you've been in an accident, etc. And then the guy was telling me, he's like, well, what did it affect? And I told him, and he was like, you still got your electronics, you still got your power running boards, your power sunroof, moonroof, all the electronics. He was like, there's about 78 components in the electronics alone. And he's like, not to just mention just basic things. So I got the extended warranty. For me, I like that peace of mind, because when we take the truck in, I don't have to pay nothing. I'm paying for it in the warranty, but it's nice to just, like, as of late, they just take care of the things because it's under warranty. And I found they treat you better. When you don't got to ante up the $200 there, they don't sneak in the, well, your brake pads are going bad. I can't tell you how many times we've gotten ours fixed, and they've talking about, man, your pads are still out of 10. Well, I can imagine sometimes if I didn't have that maintenance package,
So you
they'd
had
be
the
in there
maintenance.
talking about you're gonna need some brakes here soon, right? Because a lot of who knows how to get up under a car and check all those things. I don't have the time. I'm willing to learn, but I don't have the time. I don't have the tools to do that, right? So I got to take them at their word sometimes. So little things
So-
like that matter.
Tell them why it's important not to purchase a brand new vehicle.
You lose 15 to 20%.
15 to 20% when you
Of
drive
the
it off the
value.
lot.
So unless you're getting yourself, I'll name a couple vehicles: a Ford Raptor R or a regular Raptor. If you are getting yourself a performance vehicle, some vehicle with a V8 that can last you longer than what you financed it for, do not do it. It is enticing. It looks good. It looks pretty when you sit in it, and when you take it for that test run, it feels so smooth. But as soon as you get, even if you look it up, look at 2025 models, what they are now worth. When you drive that thing off the lot, you are down in a hole already. So, let alone accidents, let alone mileage, let alone they do not care if they sold it to you. They're going to tell you to your face that's the market's not the same, which is a lie. Sometimes it is the same. They just don't want to take that hit for it. They got to make their money. So, etc.
It's been that way
It's-
since I
yeah.
was in the business. Salesmen would laugh at the customers when they drive off the lot. There goes another with the headlights going off the curb. And they'd
Exactly.
be laughing. And something about it they didn't like, and they come back in, and they would be cussing and all this thing, talking about, well, we paid, why am I? Because that's all it's worth.
Right.
That's what they would
That's
tell
how they
them.
get you.
So I tell anybody, let it be 1 or 2 years old.
The only time
you
it
look at
may make sense is a lot of them now are getting desperate. So Ford, like the Ford Motors, not just the dealerships around town, they got 0% APR, 0% down payment, and there's something else. It's 000, but it's at 60 months. You got to be a well-qualified buyer. That might very well be the only instances if you can lease it. Outside of that, you're going to lose your value because most people do not care about the engines that have in their vehicles. They care about the tech. And now, as of like 2016, you can get some pretty modernized tech in a lot of the vehicles. So, anybody else on these aspects? Awesome. Let me see here. Sorry, there we go. Grammy asked about this before we got into all those questions, but this is so you can visualize what a framework can look like for your budget. And I touched on this, but now we can go in depth into it a little more. 50-30-20 rule, right? And this is a general rule. This isn't rigid. You do not have to say, oh, well, Jordan said this is what I should. This is something that you can take and see if it works for you in your portfolio and your finances. If it does not, you can look up other frameworks and things like that that do work for you. You can even swap this around if you can. But unfortunately, I know in most instances, when I go through it, you'll understand why. But most instances, due to price hikes, inflation, you probably can't outside of swapping 2 and 3. But going into it, 50% going towards your needs, right? Which is your essentials that must be prioritized in your budget. This is obviously, this is of your take-home pay, not your gross. I will always talk in take-home. I hate talking about gross unless I'm with the corporate people. But 50% your mandatory needs, shelter, food. If you have a car loan, most people do, you have to pay that, right? So your car loan, etc. 30% going towards your wants. This is one of those ones that you can probably swap if you want to. You do not necessarily have to, but also depends on your financial portfolio, right? But 30% going towards your wants, which is like your discretionary spending and things like that, the Starbucks things that we talked about, Netflix, Let's face it, most people are not sitting at home without TVs and are not watching streaming services. That's just where we're at today. If you can, bundle them. If you can catch them, and if you like to play the game, cancel them and call them, and I'm going to cancel and get the deals. More power to you. I don't do that, so
I do.
some people buy them
And
and
I
then
have to
1 month.
say, right here, with these wants, if you have Netflix, why are you going spending $50 to $100 a week to the movies?
Right.
If you got Netflix and Prime, you want to be the first one to see the movie.
You probably wanna
if
be the
you
first
wait
one.
just 3 or 4 weeks, you can be in your home comfortable seeing that new movie.
Oh, and even
Give it to you instantly.
Yeah, a Fire Stick like Aisha does.
and that might even change now with Netflix looking to buy Warner Brothers. Paramount's in the mix now, so we'll see what happens with that. We might all be at home and never experiencing movies, but unfortunately, that has kind of taken the fun out of movies, right? Even for two people, when my wife and I go, we spend a minimum $30 between 2 tickets that alone. 24 something. You add in a popcorn and drink, that's $18 or $20 now. So it's crazy. And then 20% going towards savings and debt repayment. Again, you could probably swap 2 and 3 if you can, right? It's just ultimately going to put you in a better situation. This is kind of a rule that gives you immediate insight into whether your spending is balanced. If you can chop off some of your 50% and throw it in the bucket 3, your savings and debt, more power to you.
You mentioned this, Jordan, I think in the beginning about, did you say something about life insurance? Because that needs to be with the needs.
Mm-hmm.
Because as sure as we live, eventually we're going to die. It's just a matter of when.
Right.
So we need to prepare to die like we prepare to live.
Right.
I think that's so important. And young people especially, and I have to say not just young people, we see it all over everywhere. GoFundMe accounts
Yep.
for trying to pay for somebody, gangbangers or whoever. You should always have a plan. And when you're young and healthy, whole life insurance companies.
It's very beneficial.
And you can borrow against your whole life policies.
Exactly.
And you're going to pay them less than what you would pay for a regular loan in a bank.
And like you said, if you're younger, it's cheaper. You can get it now. You can do term, whole life. There's so many different buckets. I won't even try to go through them. But if you can, like my wife and I are with Northwestern Mutual. So if I were, for whatever reason, to pass away today, she would be set for life on the policy that we have, because it's cheap for us versus what the payout would quote unquote be, etc. But yes. Any questions on this?
I don't necessarily have a question. I just want to make a comment. Thank you for showing us that visual, because I personally am not there. But having that framework and having that visual, having that goal helps us to project and say, okay, this is what I need to do. And most of us are in over our heads. We have more, how the situation works. But just having that goal, it is important to do that. If you're not there or not, I'm not. But we can be by looking at that. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and awareness and acknowledging your situation is the first step to getting better. If you can acknowledge you have a spending problem, and for some people, I want to preface this, it's not necessarily you have a spending problem. Life happens. It's okay to acknowledge that. It is okay to understand that, like, even I know some of the people who are single, who make really good money, who have had life happen to them. One of my best friends, he got in a car accident. His car is it's necessarily totaled, but he can't drive it and get it fixed. So it's just sitting. He's paying for a car that he can't drive, and he couldn't afford to fix it. He was living in Denver, paying for an apartment, which is in Denver. If you could find an apartment for under $2,000 in a nice, not a high end, a nice, safe area, you are not paying anything under $2,000. even for studios nowadays. So you might be fortunate and find deals and things like that. But for someone single making 50,000 in Denver, trying to have a car note, trying to have a single life, trying to have other bills and responsibilities, looking at trying to get married, buying a ring, those things add up. And something as simple in everyday life, having a car accident can cripple you. If you are paying for a car you cannot drive, your choices there are limited. And if you can't afford to get it fixed because you probably didn't look at, and I'm not using this person saying they didn't do this, I don't necessarily know, I didn't dive too much into it with them, but if you didn't get a good enough insurance policy to where your deductible is low, you probably aren't going to spend $1,000 to $2,000 if you don't have that on hand to get it fixed, right? So
I just want to say this because I forgot it. One other thing, because life happens. We're older. You guys are younger, but it has no sickness or illness, has no respect. We get life insurance, but you also need, this is what saved us. God gave me wisdom to get a disability policy when I was working. And no, it didn't amount to what I was, but I got a check every month for $2,500 for
Right.
2 years. My insurance guy made a mistake, and I sued the company, and I got a check for X, I can't say what it was, X
Yeah.
amount of money, but I negotiated. I'm a negotiator. But then also, as we have aged, Cicely's age, your age, anybody that's working and has a family, you don't know what sickness or disease, praise the Lord, hopefully you don't, but can you take care of your family if you're on your back? We have disability insurance. We have insurance if we go to the hospital for cancer, stroke,
Excuse me.
heart attack. Aunt Lois. We have all of that. And now I took out another policy for just regular hospital.
yeah, and a lot of
It's-
jobs
it's-
offer it fairly
Yeah,
cheap a month.
take it.
So,
It's cheap. Take it.
yeah.
While you're working, take it. Like these three, us three, we still get our checks no
Right.
matter what. But I wanted it in case I don't want to be a burden to my children. I can have a caretaker come in with the last policy. It's $45 a month, even at my age. That's all it is. And if I go to the hospital for 1 day, I get X amount of money for this and this and this. So
It's
anyway,
worth it.
yeah, it is. Think about it. And I can give you the name of the insurance company. It's real cheap because you're young. Mutual Omaha.
Cicely's heard of that.
Yeah, it's good. They give me $90 if I just go for a mammogram. Because I'm taking care of myself. So they pay you. Then I have another company that pays me.
It's worth it.
You have to be smart.
You do. That's what we're. Did anybody have any questions on the 50, 30, 20? Awesome. Smart savings. The savings is your foundation to financial freedom. It is boring. It's not fun necessarily to start out watching the little bit add up, but when it does, you feel so much better. 3 buckets here for savings that I recommend is first the emergency fund. This is like your financial insurance policy. Protects you from unexpected crises. Aim here if you can, right? You're going to have to take this and look at your portfolio and see what you can throw to this fund. But general rule of thumb, 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses to ensure financial stability. This is if car troubles, government shuts down, you lose your job, which a ton of people are losing their jobs due to AI, just due to small companies, family companies not being able to have profit, etc. Companies who are greedy, who are just replacing, like there's so many different variables here. So you want to protect yourself. And if you can grow it from 6 months to 12 months, awesome. Take it as far as you can, right? The next one here is automated transfers. Set it and forget it, right? If you can make your savings transfer a non-negotiable part of your monthly routine, awesome, right? If you right off the top, before it even hits your account, when you get paid, have outside of your 401k, but a 401k is nice if you can get that as well. Put it in a checking account, high yields account, right? Before it even touches your checking account. That's another way of just having financial discipline, and making sure you have something put aside for when life gets tough and when you get older, right? Lastly, pay yourself first. Before you pay, and I just said this, before you pay the electric bill or buy groceries, allocate a portion of your income to your savings. By making yourself a priority, you're building wealth over time. A lot of people struggle with this because most people, when you get your paycheck is gone, right? And that is where the state of most people in this world and this economy are at. So if you can look at your income, I don't know how many of you do it, but when I get a job, I start automatically, before I even get my first check, seeing what I'm gonna make by doing the paycheck calculator on Google. And I just start to play around with it. If I do this, what does it look like when I have this coming in? So you can set it up to go to your bank accounts, to go to like a different credit union, and then to a checking or a savings account. If you have like individualized investment accounts, I believe you can set it up, set some portions to go there. If you have like a routing and an account number, it's just so vital that you pay yourself first, to set yourself up for the future. And if you can only throw 5 to 10% of your income in that, that is better than what you think. It's better than having zero, and it all adds up over time. Any questions? Yeah. Alrighty. Last thing for you guys here is just a quick little interactive challenge. You don't necessarily have to partner up. If you can, awesome. But just let's try to put this into practice real quick. We're going to take 3 to 5 minutes, just kind of reflect quietly, and identify a change you can make right now. Maybe it's cutting one of your subscriptions, automating $50 to a transfer. Write it down if you can, just so you remember when you leave here, or choosing which method of debt, the snowball or avalanche method that you want to input into your situation. And then I will ask in like 3 minutes here for one of you to share that one change. I mean, if you were already thinking of it too, if you've been thinking about it throughout the session, it's getting late. I know. I don't want you to have to drive back too late on the road. So if someone's got an example already, feel free to share. He is. He was coming to get the mic.
So I made a deal with myself, like, because, I work away from home. Sometimes I don't take my lunch and stuff. I gave myself an allotment daily for what I spend for lunch, breakfast, or dinner. And like reward-wise, like sometimes I'm busy. I might not eat breakfast. I might not eat lunch. I let it carry over. And then at the end of the week, if I don't use it, I store it. That's just something I started doing.
Yeah. And that if you think about that week over week, let's just say every other week, let's say $15 a day, right? What is that times 5? $60? $60? 15 times 5? Sorry, $75. So $75, and I'm just using a estimate here, twice a month that you roll over jumps you to 150. You do that every month, you'll be sitting at $2,700 that you did not use, that you can probably throw into an investment account and let it grow even more with the market or in the savings account, and that might grow 3 to 5% annually, right? So that is something small. Is it in your benefit to not eat breakfast or lunch? That's up to you, right? But if you're not using those little funds, that would add up very easily. So, yeah.
There was a pastor in Danville, he's no longer here anymore, that he used a fast for discretionary money to put aside and put it in your drawer at home. And in a month's time, I had $300 or $400. Because if I buy groceries and spend $200 or $300,
Right.
like today I spent $200 and some dollars, and it would have been more than that, but I had cash, and then I used that, and every week I spend $200 at the store.
Yeah.
So I can't eat out like everybody else can eat out
Right.
because I cook and I prepare meals at home, healthy meals. So discretionary money, if you just take that fast from something, for me it's shopping, QVC, everybody knows that. So, but I don't just buy for me, I buy for everybody. And when I say everybody, and I need to stop, he tells me that. That can be money that we can save. So I know that. So.
Right. Those little things add up, compound interest, right? And even if you look at the 50-30-20 rule, right? If you can take 5% of your 30 from your wants month after month, that's going to add up again. If you toss that, now you got 50, 25, 25, right? You're saving an extra 5% in your finances. That's going to add up and put you in a better situation with your finances. Go ahead, Pastor Greer.
Well, I like the credit card aspect. When I charge, I try to go ahead and pay it off as soon as I can. I mean, I pay the necessary bills first.
Right.
Then I come back to the credit cards to whatever I charge. Say, probably got $100 or $150 on a certain credit card.
Yeah.
I try to look at paying that off before the next cycle, and just keep those balances at zero.
Yeah.
But I know one of my J.C. Penney, because I wasn't using it, they automatically dropped the finance. Well, my the money that I had available,
Right.
from $1,500 to $750.
Right.
You know,
They
but I'm good with that because J.C. Penney's is in Springfield,
Right.
in Champaign.
Yeah.
So I don't shop there that much anyway.
Yeah. And that is what I was saying. The credit area is a game. And those of you online, Pastor Greer was just sharing his method of how he pays his credit card, doesn't carry a balance, and pays it before his statement, but pays his bills first. And then he was saying J.C. Penney's dropped his borrowing power just because he wasn't using it. But that's one of those aspects in which those companies play games, right? Like they require you to debt. The banks, there is a reason why you cannot just go and take out $50,000 of your own money. That is not your money, right? Exactly. It's not your money. They have a $10,000 daily limit. And even at that $10,000 in today's mark, $10,000 is not a lot of money. It is. Please do not say, oh, well, he's living on different. 10,000 is, but in the way that the dollar's been inflated and the way that things cost in the economy that we live in, $10,000 is not the same as it once was. Which goes to say, if you are someone who is wealthy and you want to go pull out $50,000, you're going to jump through hoops and hurdles, no matter how legal your money is. They got to make sure it's available, right? Let alone 100, 200. They took your money that you put in that bank and they put it somewhere else, right? That's why they can only insure up to a certain amount of your money. That's why wealthy people use offshore accounts and they diversify where their money's at. Because look at the 2008 depression. Exactly. So from here on, as we're coming to a close here, just think about an action plan for yourself. Everything that we've discussed to achieve financial success, creating a budget, establishing 3 specific money goals, and reviewing your progress weekly on this aspect, it's going to help you so much just by once taking the steps to implement these things. You may not implement these things until the new year, right? But if you take the remaining, weeks of 2025 and just talk about ways that you're going to be better, put together a plan. If you know you normally get, or if it's been discussed with your manager or director or whatnot that you're getting a bonus of some sort, think about ways that you can, I'm not saying don't treat yourself, but think about ways, take that into consideration. Most probably would take a bonus and treat themselves real good. But now think about it this time, if you're getting 5,000, can I do well with just 1,000, right? Can I just take 1,000 and treat myself and put 4 up, or et cetera? So little things that you can do to be better. And hopefully I've shared enough insight, really service level, for how you can be better and a better steward over your finances, and whatnot. I am planning to have another seminar. I am moving, but if I'm here in January, at the end of January, I do want to have another seminar where we just dive deeper into understanding credit and debt, and just to stay connected with you all on your financial journeys. If I'm not here, we'll do a Zoom or a live, right, where we can just stay connected. I can ask how progress is going if you've been struggling, et cetera. So I will update when that next seminar will be, and it may even be earlier, so we'll see. I'm not selling you, but what good would it be to do all this and not let you know? I have a website. This is under my business that I've started, where it's all geared around your mindset. The seminars are going to vary. Right now, we're just in a financial segment. We'll move to a more mindset geared seminars, and then we'll talk other things. We'll have some people talk about resumes. We'll have some people talk about buying a car, what that looks like. But I have a website as well where you can purchase, if you want, 2 guidebooks that are on the website, 30 days and 60 days. The guidebooks are daily affirmations and actionable steps for you to take to just change your mind in general and helping you unlock potential in whatever you want to do. I know that sounds very broad, but that was my general purpose in this. If you are someone that struggles with your understanding of your finances or money in general, right? Often I know a lot of people who are scared of money, right? Hopefully you can take these things and be actionable in understanding money, taking steps to earn more money, starting your own business. And that's another way these guidebooks can be used. If you're someone who's been talking about starting a business like I have, you can use these guides to help build confidence and help you think differently and actually take steps into doing whatever is beneficial for you. But no pressure. If you don't, awesome. If you feel like you've gotten enough, fantastic. That's, at the end of the day, I'll be taken care of regardless. But just wanted to toss that out there. Any questions? Thank you. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, folks online.